Mars woman. Also, we're going to be live at the Drake Center with a preview of tonight's game with the Hawkeyes. All these stories, the rest of the news in 1/2 hour.
Okay, John, thanks.
Thanks, John. And finally tonight, even when she has a holiday, there's no vacation from these photographers that dog the princess.
Oh, lifestyles of the rich and famous. That's right, Princess Diana. She wanted a little bit of R&R with her sons in the Caribbean. She got more attention than she bargained for. The newly separated Princess of Wales had her first holiday officially apart from Charles. Splashing with her children in the Caribbean, she did seem to enjoy herself, though. She was smiling, despite the fact that everywhere she went, there were photographers. She tried to hide under the waves for a while, but, you know, the paparazzi, they just follow her everywhere, even on shore. The princess and her sons return to London on Wednesday, and at least she'll have a tan.
Yeah, she's wearing one piece, not like Fergie.
That's right. Well, and she looks pretty good. She does.
There you go. Time now for Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Have a good night tonight. We'll see you here for a Tuesday, live at 5 tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.
A killer is determined to be hanged for his crimes in the state of Washington. American troops in Somalia, their boss says they'll be there for a while. And a quarterback for the books, the two biggest come-from-behind wins ever.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. Capital punishment has gotten to be so routine in America, it's barely noticed. But tonight, in the state of Washington, there's a killing scheduled, and this is no routine execution. Wesley Allen Dodd wants to be hanged. His sentence for killing 3 children. And Washington State Supreme Court agrees. It would be the first American hanging since 1965. More from NBC's Keith Morrison.
It was a bizarre scene at the Washington State Supreme Court in Olympia. The condemned man arguing successfully through his lawyer against those who would spare him from the noose. And across the state in Walla Walla, the prisoner himself, Wesley Allen Dodd, winning the fight to control the method of his own death. A death he insists he wants by hanging tonight.
Probably that if something gross happens...
Today, as a storm moved in, a smattering of demonstrators stopped whoever would listen to argue against execution, especially hanging.
Standing up for the Declaration of Human Rights in a variety of countries. We're saying that you folks can't receive our aid and our help unless you're doing this and such for your people, and yet we're willing to cold-bloodedly murder our own people.
In fact, among NATO countries, only the U.S. and Turkey have a death penalty at all. Hangings do still occur in the industrial world, Japan, for example, but very rarely. Washington, Montana, Delaware, and New Hampshire are the only states in which hanging is legal. In Walla Walla, a Catholic priest was among those to ask that Dodd's life be spared.
Martin Luther King said years ago that an eye for an eye will leave the whole world blind. And if the state goes through with killing Wesley Dodd tonight, our state will be a little bit blinder.
But the fact is, Dodd has given up on himself. In this interview, set back the argument for rehabilitation.
People need to know it's the only thing that will stop me. It's necessary. It has to be done.
Why won't you stop yourself?
I don't want to.
You don't?
Dodd killed to get sexual release. His victims were young boys, 2 brothers, Cole and William Neer, aged 10 and 11, and young Lee Isley, just 4 years old, raped repeatedly and killed by hanging in a closet. Which is part of the reason Dodd wants to be hanged. His lawyer talked about the other reason.
Hanging will be the least painful method. Hanging can result in unconsciousness in 1 second and death in 17 seconds, so it can be quite humane when properly done.
As always, a crowd of witnesses will wait through any last-minute uncertainties. Then we'll see through a screen, in silhouette, the first American hanging in almost 3 decades. Keith Morrison, NBC News.
Members of Congress, of course, face nothing as extreme as the death penalty, but when the new session opens tomorrow, a number of them will be up against charges that could be politically fatal. NBC's chief congressional correspondent, Lisa Myers, has more tonight.
Tom, when Congress returns tomorrow, many members will find themselves under a cloud. A few are fighting for their political lives.
Pack your bags, Packwood, pack your bags.
This was the scene today outside the office of Oregon Senator Bob Packwood, accused of sexual harassment. Some women's groups are demanding that the Senate refuse to seat Packwood.
Tomorrow we'll see whether the United States Senate is going to take part in this cover-up, or whether the United States Senate will stand up and say, we're a new Senate. We learned some lessons with the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas hearings.
Packwood faces an investigation by the Senate Ethics Committee and continued calls for his resignation.
I am not going to resign under any circumstances.
Others, too, have serious problems. Senator Daniel Inouye, accused of sexual misconduct by his hairdresser.
As I was washing his hair, he just reached up my dress and right up to my crotch, and it was shocking to me and humiliating.
Inouye denies everything, and so far the Senate Ethics Committee refuses to investigate.
They are shutting the door on this. They are burying it, and that is of grave concern to me.
Also under a cloud, Senator Phil Gramm for questionable financial dealings. Gramm paid a Texas contractor only half the actual cost of work on this vacation home and intervened, he says routinely, on behalf of the contractor's troubled savings and loan.
This has the sense of the feeling of some kind of sweetheart deal.
Two members of the House go on trial soon, Ford of Tennessee for embezzlement and McDade of Pennsylvania for taking bribes from military contractors. Senator Charles Robb of Virginia also expects to be indicted soon, possibly for obstruction of justice. Another 6 members of Congress are under investigation by the Justice Department, including one of the House's most powerful chairmen, Dan Rostenkowski of Chicago, for possible misuse of campaign funds. To a great extent, Congress itself is on trial. How it treats ethical lapses will tell whether this institution really has changed or merely has new faces. Tom?
Thank you, Lisa. Congress begins its 103rd session with mixed news about the American economy. Northwest Airlines, facing a mountain of debt, said today is forced to lay off 1,000 workers. That's a little more than 2% of its entire workforce. But at the same time, construction spending in November was up just over 2%, the highest level in 2 years. Lower interest rates encourage new home construction. That was a major factor. NBC's Andrea Mitchell is in Washington tonight, where more numbers are presenting new challenges to the president-elect, even before he's sworn in. Andrea, this deficit is a growing monster.
It is, Tom. Bill Clinton said he would cut the deficit in half over 4 years. It's going to be tougher than he made it sound.
After a carefree vacation on the beach in South Carolina, it's reality time in Little Rock. The biggest reality is the budget deficit. During the campaign, Clinton promised he could handle it.
Because under my plan, we will increase investment and reduce the deficit by more than 50% over the next 4 years.
But while Clinton was campaigning last August, congressional budget experts announced that the deficit would be at least $100 billion more than everyone had thought. President Bush and Clinton ignored the new figures. Clinton's spokesman today.
Well, the deficit was a moving number all year long. We never had a final fix on it.
It's not as though Clinton wasn't warned. In September, the Wall Street Journal said both Clinton and Bush were flunking deficit math. In October, Clinton was asked about his numbers during the debates.
The numbers don't add up.
The answer is to invest and grow this economy. That's what works in other countries, and that's what will work here.
He insisted his plan added up.
Might you not have to raise gasoline taxes or do other things that affect middle-class folks?
Not to pay for these programs. Mr. Bush is saying that I'm going to raise taxes to pay for these programs. He knows it's not true.
Clinton aides now say one reason for last month's economic conference was to use one of their own advisors to dramatize that the deficit is bigger than they had acknowledged.
Unfortunately, President-elect Clinton and Vice President-elect Gore, I have to report to you today that the more recent forecasts show a significant deterioration of this situation.
Clinton acted as though the information was new to him.
Thank you very much. It's a terrific job. Nobody wants to clap for the deficit, but give him a hand. He did a good job of it.
A campaign aide said today that if Clinton had dealt with the deficit more realistically before the election, Bush would have jumped all over him, and that the kind of plan you need for a campaign is very different from what you need to govern. Tom?
Thanks, Andrea. When Nightly News continues in a moment, no one said that Somalia would be easy, and now it's going to be longer for those American troops.
You, next month's $10 million winner at American Family. Sound good? They won millions. Now, a winning entry in your mail can put you on the map real fast. Next month, when I announce the winner of another $10 million prize for American Family, the only big prize sweepstakes with my picture. You may have the $10 million winning entry right now. Enter fast, because I'll be awarding the $10 million prize just weeks from now.
Congratulations. What do you say?
Chapstick medicated, please.
Introducing Chapstick Medicated, triple medicated. You can feel it working immediately. New Chapstick Medicated, triple medicated relief.
Hey, at home or on the go, nothing's easier than Static Guard for stopping static cling. Anytime, anywhere. Thanks for the tip. Static Guard, the easy way to spray cling away.
Talks to bring peace to Somalia began today in Ethiopia, but there were no high hopes. 4 of Somalia's warring factions boycotted this meeting. And in Somalia, it became clear that most of the U.S. troops will be spending Super Bowl Sunday at least there. More now from NBC's Dennis Murphy.
The Somali warlords sat at the same table today, an accomplishment, but they didn't talk. They squabbled over procedures for peace talks later on. The UN peacemaker has caught nothing but bricks on this African trip. Outside the warlords' meeting today, Ethiopian student demonstrators fought with police on another issue. They are opposed to Boutros Ghali's intervention on the future of Eritrea, the breakaway province of Ethiopia. Here in Mogadishu Sunday, an anti-Boutros Ghali mob stoned the UN office and ripped down its flag. Warlord politics. Boutros Ghali got a good taste of the chaos here. The Somali clans, meanwhile, are still armed to the teeth. The Marines cleared out a weapon stash in the city's wild north side. Mortars, recoilless rifles, the works.
Somalia in general, and Mogadishu specifically, is still a dangerous, potentially dangerous place.
No one is more aware of the danger today than the charitable groups feeding the starving refugees their cups of gruel. Over the weekend, a UNICEF officer was shot dead in a city down the coast. Being a good Samaritan here is worth your life.
A week ago, I'd have said things are easing off. We're not getting new admissions. And the next day you come in and there's more people. It seems far from settled at the moment.
The U.S. Marines wouldn't argue with that. They are watching too many cheers and smiles turn to taunts and obscenities. The euphoria of helping is over. The Defense Department announced today that a few U.S. troops will be moved out of here by the end of the month, but most of the force will remain. Defense Secretary Cheney said it's still a nasty, dangerous neighborhood. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, Mogadishu.
And potential danger of another sort, the cargo aboard a Japanese freighter that docked today at a port north of Tokyo. Highly radioactive plutonium. The ship set off all kinds of international alarms last November when it set sail from France. More on it tonight from NBC's Brad Willis.
The Japanese freighter has been on the high seas for 2 months, carrying the most deadly cargo on Earth, more than 1 ton of plutonium. Calling it a target for terrorists and a potential environmental disaster, Greenpeace has tried to block the ship, while activists around the world have taken to the streets in protest. Nations along the ship's route from Europe, Africa, Indochina, and Asia have formally protested Japan's plans to make dozens of similar shipments over the next 20 years. But Japan is bent upon becoming energy independent by using a type of plutonium-fueled breeder reactor the U.S. abandoned long ago as too costly and too dangerous. 1 speck of plutonium can cause cancer. 50 pounds makes an atom bomb. If their plans go as scheduled, by the year 2010, the Japanese will have stockpiled some 400 tons of plutonium. That's more weapons-grade material than the entire nuclear arsenals of America and Russia combined.
All nuclear-related activities must be peaceful. That is our very important, very committed national nuclear energy policy.
The Japanese insist they'll never build nuclear bombs, and their plutonium will be kept safe from terrorists. This overland shipment of 4 tons of plutonium last spring was supposed to be top secret and perfectly safe. Japanese television easily tracked the convoy, broadcasting live as the huge trucks got stuck in rush hour traffic in downtown Tokyo, home to 12 million people.
If something can go wrong, it will. Murphy's Law applies to plutonium as much as anything else. And when something goes wrong with plutonium, you lose cities, and civilization itself can be threatened.
That's the high-stakes gamble Japan will play out over the next 20 years on land and on sea. Brad Willis, NBC News.
When Nightly News continues in a moment, saving our national forests. Are we doing enough?
It was Best in Show at the North American International Auto Show.
It has more room than the Infiniti Q45 and more horsepower than the BMW 525i. It has dual airbags and a built-in fold-down child seat. Where this car is made is not nearly as important as where it's sold. Introducing the Chrysler Concorde, the renaissance of the American car.
There's a new love in my life. Multigrain wheat thins. 6 whole grains baked in for a crunchy, delicious taste. Everybody knows grains are good for you, but it's the taste that got me. Multigrain wheat thins. I love the taste.
I shampoo for dandruff, but my scalp still itches.
Now there's Scalpicin for deep scalp itch, not ordinary dandruff. It's clear liquid, not shampoo. With itch medicine, doctors chose over these dandruff shampoo formulas.
The itch is gone.
Scalpicin.
Did you tell Papa?
Tell Papa what?
Does Kellogg's Mueslix cereal taste like Grandma's?
Our family secret?
Europeans are puzzled. Does the great taste of Kellogg's Mueslix come from their secret recipe?
Fruits, nuts, whole grains. It's perfect.
Impossible.
Tastes like ours, really.
Good morning, children.
Mama?
Why, this is the best we've ever made.
Kellogg's Mueslix, the European secret for great taste.
America Close Up tonight, logging a legacy. Only 5% of the lower 48 states' virgin forest remains, most of it in the national forest. Striking a balance between development and preservation is now striking sparks between loggers and the Forest Service. Idaho, still heavily forested, is the site of our report tonight from NBC's Robin Lloyd.
Not even winter snowstorms stopped the logging on Idaho's Clearwater National Forest, one of the largest supplies of timber in the northern Rockies. The old-growth trees here mean big money for logging companies and for local residents, jobs. But that may be changing. The amount of timber cut on the Clearwater is down by 80%. Lumberjacks like Mike Allen have been hard hit.
We used to work 8-9 months a year. Now a lot of the times I only work 6 months a year.
In lumber towns like Orofino, some people blame environmentalists for the slowdown. But mill owners like Don Kunkel say the biggest threats to the local economy are environmentally concerned managers within the Forest Service.
If the Forest Service doesn't live up to their obligations and the forest plan, there's not going to be enough timber to go around, and we just won't be able to run.
For years, the Forest Service has given the timber industry here pretty much anything it wants on national forest land. A steady source of lumber was in part what Teddy Roosevelt intended when he set up the Forest Service in 1905. But last year, local Forest Service officials resisted orders from Washington to increase the timber harvest.
We're basically just running out of trees and watersheds. We need time for these watersheds to rest and recover so we can meet our standards.
Tests show that heavy logging over the past decade has fouled 70% of the streams in the Clearwater, killing fish. Huge sections of the forest have been leveled. The Clearwater's supervisor, Win Green, has been reprimanded by his superiors for not allowing more national forest timber to be cut. But Green says if he does, federal environmental laws will be violated.
We can't go back in there and continue to impact those areas until they have a chance to restore themselves.
Not just here in the Rockies, but in other parts of the country, Forest Service officials are starting to criticize their own organization for not doing enough to save the national forests. At issue here is nothing less than the future role of the Forest Service and the public lands the agency manages.
Since 1980, huge sections of national forest have been leveled, nearly 10 million acres, an area roughly the size of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut combined.
If we kept harvesting through the rest of this decade and into the 21st century, at the rate that we have the past 30 years, we'd soon be out of wood supply.
John Muma was fired because of those views. But timber industry experts and their allies in Congress believe his concerns and those of others are nonsense.
If we took an approach like that, we would never cut an acre of wheat. We would never cut an acre of corn. For the food supply, lumber and timber is something that every American uses every day.
For the people in lumber towns like Orofino, a way of life is now threatened. But many of those who have taken on the responsibility as stewards of the nation's trees see a more serious threat to the life of this country's remaining forests. Robin Lloyd, NBC News, Orofino, Idaho.
I'll have the latest on Michael Milken when Nightly News continues.
To get rid of her gray, my wife can spend 40 minutes. But I discovered the 5-minute hair coloring.
The revolutionary discovery called Just for Men from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men and in 5 minutes shampoo out.
Gray is blended away. The look of my natural color is back in 5 minutes. That was me, and it won't fade or wash out.
My hair takes forever, but you look great in just 5 minutes.
The look of your natural color in just 5 minutes with Just for Men.
Hey, Ace is a place in Oregon, Illinois, and here's why.
You get more bang for your buck.
Like a Jameson smoke alarm for just $4.77, and this 5-shelf storage unit with bonus shelf, now only $12.99.
Hey, Ace is America's place for better values. Where do tasty Sunsweet pitted prunes come from? Well, prunes grow on trees, but not prune trees, plum trees. Because all prunes are plums, but not all plums are sweet enough to be Sunsweet prunes. Aren't you glad you asked?
You know, all families catch colds, even doctors' families, like the O'Connors. For Mrs. O'Connor's cold, her husband recommends Dimetapp. It's the brand recommended by doctors over 200 million times. Now there's something new, Dimetapp liquid gels. 4-hour liquid gels are concentrated medicine that relieves congestion, sneezing, sniffling, really fast. Doctors trust Dimetapp for their families. Shouldn't you trust it for yours? For 12-hour relief, try Dimetapp Extentabs. Give me one good reason to try new Serenity with Dry Layer Plus. Hugs. Johnson & Johnson. This new blue layer, only Serenity has it.
Pulls the wetness in quicker, away from my skin.
Definitely drier.
The alternative?
The Plus, odor protection. I want that.
Drier, fresher? That just feels cleaner. New Dry Layer Plus, another good reason to love Serenity Guards from Johnson & Johnson.
Former junk bond financier Michael Milken has entered a halfway house for 2 months before his final release from prison. Milken served 22 months of his original 10-year sentence for insider trading. He paid more than $1 billion in fines and settlements, but he still has an estimated $500 million in personal fortune. In other news tonight, in Bosnia, heavy shelling continued outside of Sarajevo as a brutal winter set in. Last chance peace talks in Geneva adjourned. No progress reported. In Mexico, death on a tourist holiday, at least 24 killed when a speeding bus overturned Sunday near Cancun. 2 Americans among the confirmed dead, 12 others presumed killed. In this country, the growing gap between rich and poor is squeezing the economic diversity from too many communities. People in one Colorado city are trying to do something about that. NBC's Roger O'Neill tonight.
It has, Boulder, Colorado, what almost every city in America wants. Jobs, soaring real estate, smart workers. Boulder even has a thriving downtown shopping mall.
Knocking, knocking, knocking on heaven's door.
Heaven may be for those who have lots of money, but for the Ian Greeds of Boulder, who sell trinkets from a pushcart, for workers who make their living serving others, Boulder is not home. They cannot afford the $155,000 median-priced house.
And I think that it's unfair for people with low incomes to be denied a beautiful place to live.
When Boulder looks at itself in the mirror, it likes to see a politically correct place. And becoming too rich, its leaders say, is not correct.
We don't want to become the kind of community where everyone is quite upper middle class, working the same kinds of jobs. We really want to have a diverse community.
The mayor is Leslie Durgan. Let's get some coffee.
Thank you. We clearly are not importing low-income people in Boulder, but we certainly want to make sure that people who are here, people who are working in Boulder, can also afford to live in Boulder.
So the city plans to use the little bit of vacant land left to build as many as 500 units of affordable housing. Boulder was a leader in open space, in accessibility for the handicapped, in noise pollution and enforcing it. So the idea of housing for working folks does not raise the cry of, not in my backyard.
Boulder's a fun town, and I don't think you should be extremely wealthy like many people are here to enjoy it.
Boulder is diversity, you know, if you want to put it that way, because you got everything here that you only have a little bit of everywhere else.
Boulder wants to keep its diverse face all the time, not just when the performers are around. Roger O'Neill, NBC News, Boulder, Colorado.
At the opposite end of the country, on Wall Street, stocks closed higher on this first trading day of the new year, and volume today was heavy.
A short while ago, Carol Walters was troubled with arthritis pain. But she promised Pete they'd go for their run. So she took a Motrin IB, the same medicine as in the Motrin doctors have prescribed for years, but in non-prescription strength. And just one Motrin IB works as well as 2 regular aspirin. So now Carol's ready.
Let's go, Pete.
Pete's been ready for a while. Motrin IB, the relief of Motrin in non-prescription strength.
Day 1 in the middle of nowhere. The meals have been superb. It's a good thing they have a fitness program aboard every Royal Caribbean ship. Maybe I'll work out tonight before dinner. Maybe I won't. There was something about the streamers at our Bon Voyage party that told me this is going to be the vacation of a lifetime.
You've got some Royal Caribbean coming.
I found if you feed a lot of meat, and a good kind of meat like pedigree, you really get a nice shine to the coat.
John Woodring, top breeder of champion beagles.
A dog that's really fit, that's had really good nutrition, is definitely happier and makes a better pet. I only want my dogs to have the best food, and the best food we've found is pedigree and pedigree mealtime. I really like the pedigree meat mixed with the mealtime dry. I'd recommend pedigree to anybody who owns a dog, either a pet or a show dog.
Pedigree, developed with vets, recommended by top breeders.
Taste it, Grandpa.
He never would have tried this with his old adhesive.
Fixident holds stronger than any other adhesive. It even stands up to the hottest liquids. For the strongest hold you can get, Fixident and forget it.
At first, it was just a cough, but by 3 o'clock, it was the flu, and Lisa Halley knew enough to get home fast. To Theraflu, serious hot liquid medicine. Doctor recommended Theraflu. Your flu misery stops here.
The Buffalo Bills are alive today, still in the running for the Super Bowl, when everyone, well, almost everyone, thought for sure they were dead. One man on their football team, however, is the football equivalent of the Heimlich maneuver. He knows how to keep a team from dying. NBC's Sarah James.
Moon goes deep, and Warren Moon has thrown for 4 touchdowns in the first half.
With the score 28-3, Buffalo fans were turning off their sets and heading for the exits.
Seemed out of reach, so we took off. I hate to say it, but they seem to choke.
But those who kept the faith witnessed football history.
It is right down the middle.
The greatest comeback in the history of the NFL.
Orchestrating the comeback was a little-known backup quarterback, Frank Reich, who tossed 4 touchdown passes and turned Buffalo's certain loss into the kind of win that legends are made of. But then, Reich is a specialist in Hail Marys. In 1984, at the University of Maryland, he led his team to the greatest comeback win in major college history. But Reich credited this big win to his teammates and...
I look at that as a miracle from God.
In Buffalo, Reich went from second string to first in the hearts of fans.
Well, is Frank Reich the king of the comeback?
I knew it. I had faith in them. I have faith in the Bills. They're my team.
Even people who never rooted for Buffalo are turning into Bills fans. It's not so much switching team loyalties as it is rooting for an unlikely hero.
I think Frank Reich probably has got a place in pro football history.
He just was unstoppable.
You kept saying, come on, you can do it, you can do it. I mean, it was rooting for the underdogs. It was so exciting.
In the playoffs, you don't get long to savor wins. Buffalo plays Pittsburgh on Saturday. But no matter what happens in that game, the win that wasn't possible is one Reich and Buffalo will remember a long time. Sarah James, NBC News, New York.
That's nightly news for this first Monday of the new year. My best wishes to all of you, and just like last year, we'll see you again tomorrow night.
It is right down the middle.
Amazing.
Just ahead from your 24-hour news source, this Des Moines mother convicted of child endangerment gets a stiff prison sentence today. We'll have team coverage.
A new year, but the same old story from Mother Nature. Slick roads and slow going for Central Iowa motorists.
And you saw some late-day sunshine today and clear skies expected tonight, but that's not necessarily good news. I'll have more on that just ahead.
And in northwest Iowa, the search for a missing Lamar's woman continues. Police say it's foul play.
These stories, plus a live report on tonight's Iowa-Drake game, all coming up next.
Kids Beds has the beds kids want.
Day beds, bunk beds, water beds, princess canopy beds.
Kids Beds has the best selection and lowest prices on beds for kids of all ages. This all-wood Cimarron bunk bed frame is just $259.99, or choose the futon bunk bed frame for only $269.99. You'll find everything for your kid's bedroom at
Kids Beds,
3715 Merle Hay Road at Douglas, next to Big Sur Waterbeds.
I'm always in the kitchen cooking up new ideas. This one's perfect for Wendy's 99-cent super value menu. I call it a Junior Mushroom Swiss Burger. It starts with fresh beef, melted Swiss, topped with a special mushroom sauce, all served hot off the grill.
The 99-cent Junior Mushroom Swiss Burger, a great new taste on Wendy's super value menu, only for a limited time.
My daughter Wendy thinks I'm obsessed with our super value menu. Gee, I didn't think it showed.
Movies to Go, Iowa's favorite video superstores, now with free lifetime memberships. Open 10 a.m. to midnight every day. Convenient locations near you. Over 10,000 movies, videos, and Nintendo games. Plenty of convenient parking spaces. We're 10,000 times the fun. Movies to Go superstores, there's one near you. 6 locations in Des Moines and Ames. Proud sponsor of the Movies to Go Iowa Film Awards. Take home a movie tonight.
Live from WHO TV 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day. John Bachman, Kim Kerrigan, Rick Silvestrini with sports, and meteorologist Gary Amble with the weather. This is News Center 13 at 6.
Joanne Taggart of Des Moines sentenced today for her role in the severe beating of her young son, Jonathan Waller. And another slippery mess on central Iowa streets and highways. Dozens of accidents reported. Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Well, on the icy weather in just a moment, but first our top story. Sentencing today brings to a close what authorities call one of the worst cases of child abuse ever in Des Moines.
Joanne Taggart is on her way to prison in connection with the brutal beating of her 4-year-old son. Taggart was sentenced today in Polk County Court. She will spend up to 30 years in prison on 3 child endangerment convictions. This was the second and final sentencing in the case. Earlier, her former boyfriend, Dario Rezga, was convicted on 4 counts of child endangerment for brutally beating the child. In our team report tonight, Lori Groves has a progress report on little Jonathan and reaction from the family. But first, News Center 13's Kathy Soltero tells us more about the sentencing.
Now, it is a judgment of the court that defendants are judged guilty of child endangerment in the first degree in violation of the code, and shall be imprisoned for a period not to exceed 10 years.
It was the stiffest penalty she could get, and the emotions began to show. Joanne Taggart will spend up to 30 years in prison on 3 convictions of child endangerment.
I don't think that Joanne is a danger to anyone, and so from that aspect, I think that she is being punished because of the severity of her child's injuries.
Taggart's relatives have had primary custody of Jonathan since he was near death. With bittersweet feelings toward Joanne, they showed a flood of emotions at her sentencing today. And just before Joanne was handcuffed and taken away, she embraced her mother and sobbed. Defense attorney Ernest Reese says she was surprised by the severity of the sentence and plans to appeal the case.
Joanne did not knowingly permit the abuse of her child. She instead accepted the explanations for these injuries that her former boyfriend gave to her. She didn't willingly permit the child to be abused.
Taggart left the courtroom headed to prison. Authorities say she is eligible for parole in a year. In Des Moines, Kathy Soltero, News Center 13.
Now, even with Joanne Taggart's sentencing, young Jonathan Waller's struggle is far from over.
Waller, who is in the care of his aunt, remains severely handicapped from the beating he suffered from Taggart's boyfriend.
News Center 13's Lori Groves visited Jonathan Waller at home before Taggart's sentencing, and she says Taggart's family has a mixed reaction tonight.
It's getting better. No, it's not.
Marge Dreyhaus has in many ways been Jonathan Waller's mother for months. She is the sister of Joanne Taggart.
She says she has mixed thoughts about her sister's sentencing.
I have not forgiven her for what she has done. That will take time. But we do talk.
This fall, I met Jonathan Waller. At the time these pictures were taken, he couldn't sit up by himself. He has since improved, but doctors say he will never walk. Jonathan Waller continues his rehabilitation. He has speech and physical therapists from Methodist come to his home every week. But is the sentence that Joanne Taggart received fair? According to Marge Dreyhouse, Jonathan is already serving a life sentence himself. Doctors have been amazed at Jonathan's progress, but they say he'll never be normal. But Jonathan's family will never give up either. Lori Groves, News Center 13.
Recapping now, Joanne Taggart today received sentences totaling 30 years in connection with her son's beating a year ago. While Taggart received 3 10-year sentences, she is eligible for parole in 1 year. Meantime, her former boyfriend, Dario Ruesgo, was convicted and sentenced last fall. He is currently serving 50 years in prison for the beating of Jonathan Waller last February.
Jury selection began today in the first-degree murder trial of Charles Lesage. Lesage, seen here in an earlier court appearance, is accused in the death of 11-year-old Rosalind Barnes. In October of '91, the Des Moines girl was strangled with a wire and suffered 2 blows to her head. Her body was found in an Altoona roadside ditch several hours after she was reported missing. Lesage's trial is expected to last up to 3 weeks. The constitutionality of Clyde's parade ordinance is being tested in Polk County Court by pro-lifer David Shedlock. The ordinance has been used to restrict Shedlock's picketing outside the Clive residence of Dr. Herbert Reamer, who performs abortions. Magistrate D.J. Stovall today took the matter under advisement.
Central Iowans feeling the wrath of Mother Nature the last few days. What started as rain yesterday turned to ice when the sun went down, making driving nearly impossible. This morning, icy conditions made rush hour miserable. It took our crew 40 minutes to travel from the West McMaster to downtown on I-235. There were a number of fender benders, no serious injuries, however. As the day wore on, conditions got a little bit better, but there were still some real tricky spots. Near Ankeny, this car slid into a semi, sending the driver of the car to an area hospital. Authorities say his injuries were not life-threatening.
Not only was it dangerous out there, it was cold this afternoon.
Just a miserable afternoon. Hoping it's going to get a little better. Got some good news for us, Gary?
Well, as far as temps go, no, I don't have good news for you, but the skies are clear. We have that going for us, meaning no more snow should be falling, and these clear nights usually mean cold winter nights. And let's take a look at this little cartoon that I made for you, kind of a crude rendition of what we're looking at. Cloudy skies will trap the stored warm air in the ground as it's released overnight, and again, there it is, trapped. But the same setup with the clouds parting away, and what little bit of stored heat we have will be escaping well into the atmosphere, so look for a chilly night ahead of us tonight. Again, clear skies, not the best news. And I do have a forecast, though, that will contain more clouds and more snow by the end of the week, and I'll have that for you just a few minutes ahead.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Now that vacation is over, we have classroom lectures here.
That's what we're getting.
Authorities not sure if weather played a part in the South Side accident this afternoon.
But the wreck did send 1 man to the hospital today. The unidentified man was taken to Iowa Methodist by helicopter. He was driving this minivan onto Army Post Road when it collided with this semi-truck. The driver of the truck escaped injury.
Fleur Drive completely reopened this afternoon in time for the commute home. Earlier today, traffic was slowed because the street was still partially closed. A gas line beneath the street started leaking over the weekend, and it took crews until today to finish their repairs. Midwest Gas says the leak was likely caused by shifts in soil from the freezing rain.
The governor providing a preview of next week's State of the State address. Details when we come back.
And Lincoln High School students back in class today. School officials hoping the holiday break eases racial tensions there.
And the search continues tonight for a 23-year-old Lamar's woman. Police expect foul play in her disappearance. I'm Jim Strickland. The story's next when the news continues.
Pigeon's winter clearance is happening now. You won't want to miss this one. A sale so popular, Des Moines waits for this one to take advantage of the savings. All last year's models must go. Savings on floor samples, one of a kind. Unprecedented savings throughout our store. You can save up to 50% store-wide on living rooms, bedrooms, dining rooms, everything for your home. Don't miss this once-a-year sale.
If you're looking for a new career opportunity, listen to this. There's never been a better time to be an electronics repair technician, like me. We're really in demand, and you could be too. The National Education Center is now offering a course to train you as an electronics repair technician. Call now for a copy of this brochure. This could be your chance of a lifetime.
For a brochure, call 1-800-722-7337. That's 1-800-722-7337. Call now.
When I got pregnant with Timmy 10 years ago, we almost chose not to bring him into the world. We were young and unmarried. We didn't have much money, and at the time it seemed like the right decision. But now, every time I look at him, I can't imagine life without him.
Life. What a beautiful choice.
Hungry for what? The stomach bone's connected to the brain bone. Come on, brain. Anybody in there? An omelet. Yes, at Perkins. Yellow fluffy egg wrapped around what? Ham and cheese. Which begs the question, what came first, the egg or the wagon? Quit thinking and move. First stop, banks. Second stop, watch your step, please. Perkins. Otherwise, you will have to settle for one slice of toast, no butter. I have forsaken dry toast long ago. Give me butter or give me jam. Socrates.
Perkins. It's food for thought.
Be a part of the News Center 13 team. Call our News Hawk hotline at 282-TV13 if you see news happen or capture an event on videotape.